We had a busy day of news on opening night of the 23-24 season. Tonight we're looking at some trade rumors regarding the Vancouver Canucks, Columbus Blue Jackets, as well as the Boston Bruins. We also have a recap of some other news from earlier, including a small trade between Colorado and Carolina, some waiver activity, some signings, and injury updates from around the league. All that coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we had a very busy day of news today leading into the opening night of the 23-24 season. So far in tonight's action, we've already had the Tampa Bay Lightning defeat Nashville in the first game of the season with a 5-3 score. Nikita Kucherov had himself a couple of goals. Ryan O'Reilly scored in his first game in a Predators uniform. And overall, it was a pretty solid game, 5-3 with an empty netter at the very last second by Kucherov. So it was more of a 4-3 game. Lightning win with Johansson and net, which is, I know, probably makes them feel good. Obviously, with Vasilevsky not being available for the first few months of the season, that's going to be tough, and many speculate they will make a trade. So far, they have not. They didn't pick anybody up on waivers, and for game one, at least, it's paid off. Johansson was decent, but then again, to be honest, unfair. Nashville's not the strongest team, not the strongest offensive team either, so we'll see if they get into some stiffer competition, how that goes. So far in game two, Connor Bedard has made his debut. The game is about halfway through the second period as I record this video. 2-0 Pittsburgh. Crosby and Rust have scored the goals for Pittsburgh. Bedard has looked really, really good so far. Lots of shot attempts, lots of shots on net. His line has been playing primarily against Crosby or Malkin. And analytically speaking, his line has actually owned a good chunk of the play. So to me, he's doing just fine, having himself a good start. Hopefully we see a Bedard goal before the end of the night. We still have the Vegas banner raising against the Seattle Kraken coming up here shortly to cap off night one of the NHL season as well. So, of course, earlier, just to quickly recap, in case you missed any of my other earlier videos, we did have a small trade between the Avalanche and the Hurricanes. Carolina traded defenseman Caleb Jones to the Colorado Avalanche in exchange for Callahan Burke. Caleb Jones will have an opportunity to probably be the number 7 defenseman with the Avalanche. Burke will be he's an undrafted prospect who's put in about 3 years in the minors. Hard to say if he'll ever amount to an NHL player or not. The good news for him, though, is even though he technically has been traded, he doesn't have to go anywhere, because where the Hurricanes don't have an AHL affiliate of their own, they've been worked out an agreement where he'll actually stay and be loaned to the Colorado Eagles American Hockey League team. So he'll stay on the exact same team. Caleb Jones will come over and join him because he already cleared waivers, so the Avalanche can place him in the AHL if they wish, and they can call him up, and he'll have more of an opportunity there than he would in Carolina, so that works out good for both teams. We also had a waiver claim today. Ross Johnston of the Islanders, Ross the Boss as they call him, was on waivers, the only guy, and he was picked up, surprisingly, by the Anaheim Ducks. They picked up Johnston, who's got 3 years left on his contract at $1.1 million. A lot of people surprised that they picked him up because of the contract especially, but that's what happened. I guess they wanted some more toughness over there, and he's gone. On waivers today, we had David Riddick of the Los Angeles Kings, Alex Barré-Boulet in Tampa. They intend on sending him down so they can bring up Zach Bogosian, who cleared waivers himself a few days prior. We also had Bobby McMahon from the Toronto Maple Leafs on waivers to go to the Marlies, and he was dealing with an injury, but that's since recovered. The Leafs today also announced that they've signed Noah Gregor to a 1-year league minimum deal of $775,000. We also learned today that the Vegas Golden Knights have released Max Comtois from his professional tryout. So the former Anaheim Duck, unfortunately, does not land himself a contract in Vegas, and I'm not sure if he'll get picked up elsewhere or not. So far, we've only seen one player released from their PTO. It landed elsewhere, and that was Zach Aston Reese, who was on a tryout with the Hurricanes and ended up signing shortly after with the Detroit Red Wings. We also had a prospect signing today as well with Edmonton, signing Bo Akey. I'm not sure if it's Akey or Aki. It's Akey. He was a second-round pick in the 2023 NHL draft, right-shot defenseman from the OHL's Barrie Colts. So he gets his ELC on the books for the Edmonton Oilers. Now, as I mentioned as well, we have a variety of NHL trade rumors I want to take a look at today. Most of today's info comes from Elliot Friedman, as well as some other NHL insiders. I know Friedman went on record earlier today to make the news that Conor Garland would like out of Vancouver. He seems like he made a request to be traded, or at least expressed his desire to move on. I don't know. I know Rick Dollywall, who's a well-connected Canucks reporter, is debating whether or not it's an official trade request. But to me, it's maybe he used different language. It's hard to say, but it's at the very least, it's a mutual agreement between he and the Canucks that it's best to move on. Now, he recently, in the last day, also changed agents. He's now represented by Wasserman Hockey and Judd Moldaver. Of course, Moldaver represents some of the top names in hockey, including Connor McDavid and Austin Matthews. And he's been given consent by the Vancouver Canucks to help facilitate a trade. So he apparently, according to Friedman, has been aggressively speaking with several teams around the league, trying to find a new home for Conor Garland. Now, we've said for a long time that the Canucks have been looking for salary cap flexibility, and that their players on the wings were the most likely guys that they would like to cut back on and move some players out. Garland's name's been out there, Besser, Tanner Pearson before he was traded, assuming he was healthy, of course, not to mention a few others. So at the end of the day, this isn't a huge shocker, but it is a little bit surprising in a sense that Garland actually wants out. We've heard his name out there, but to know that he wants to be and prefers to be traded is definitely new information that we did not know before. So whether or not he's officially made a trade request, or he's let it be known that he would be well open to it or prefer it, or whatever you want to call it, at the end of the day, it's not something that the Vancouver Canucks, in my opinion, really needed to be made public on opening day of the NHL season right before they play their first game. Do they really need more distractions and anything more to create chaos or a circus around the team? I really don't think they do. It's unfortunate when you hear players that want out or prefer to be traded, and the timing of it, in my opinion, from the team's perspective, the start of the year couldn't be worse. I'm not sure if any of his teammates or coaches or who knew what before today, but at the end of the day here, this is something that I'm sure his team's probably not thrilled to hear. When you know one of your teammates don't really want to be there, it does, sometimes create a little bit of tension, and it can play a role in how everybody interacts around the team and in the dressing room. So I hope for their sake that it doesn't really cause too much of a distraction within the team. I know Conor Garland previously obviously played for the Coyotes. His contract's not that bad. Really, for what he gives you, it's, I know that his name's been out there as a potential cap casualty or cap savings, kind of player that they can move out. But you're going to be hard-pressed to find and replace his production with a better, cheaper contract. He's not really, it's not a bad deal. So I don't know how they're going to go about navigating through this. I know in the past the Boston Bruins have been linked, but I know right now they really need a centerman, and he's not a centerman, so I don't know if there would be any interest there. Looking around the league, you're looking at some teams that have a little bit more cap flexibility and space, or the teams near the bottom of the standings. I know that the Columbus Blue Jackets, who we're going to talk about here, would really like to move a defenseman as well. And I wonder maybe if there's any chance these two teams could connect. I don't know that they will. But the other big rumor we heard today was that the Columbus Blue Jackets are also aggressively trying to free up a spot on the roster to get youngster and top prospect David Jiricek on opening night roster. They may have to do it after if it can't happen in time because their game isn't too far away here. But at the end of the day, they really want to move a defenseman. Now, they're not going to move any of the guys they just picked up, like Ivan Provorov, for example. Obviously, they also got Damon Severson. Those guys are, under contract for a while. We know they love Zach Werenski. He's not going anywhere. But outside of that, I would be doubtful that Erik Gudbranson would go because not that they, I don't know, Gudbranson is kind of an up and down guy. I mean, he's kind of, either you love him or you hate him type of thing. But at the end of the day, I'm not sure that his contract would be viewed upon as being overly tradable. So I think we're looking at either Adam Boqvist, Andrew Peeke, maybe Jake Bean. Any of those guys would be preferable. They're all making him that $2 to $3 million range, which is good. It gives them more than enough flexibility from a cap perspective and roster perspective to get Jiricek in the lineup. As I mentioned, I know the Canucks, not only do they want to try to move Garland here because of the request that's come from him and his agents working on this. But we have also seen rumors regarding the Canucks that they really would like to find an ideal top pair defenseman to work with Quinn Hughes on a longer-term basis. That makes most sense. So to me, when you're looking at a guy like Hughes, who's a bit of a rover, really strong offensively, great skater, if you think back to like Erik Karlsson back in his heyday in Ottawa, he had Mark Methot. And, I use that as an example for the ideal defense pair, but they really worked wonders together. And I think he could use somebody of that stature. So I'm not sure any of these guys in Columbus really fit that bill. Peak is probably somebody who's more of a stay-at-home defensive style guy, but is he really a top pair guy for an elite level defender? I can't say that he is. So I know, as much as they kind of have what each other wants in a way, I don't necessarily think there's going to be a deal there. But they are kind of looking for similar type things. We know Columbus would like to move a defenseman. Obviously, bringing back a forward might work for them. I know they have a lot of young guys and they're trying to take the pressure off them from having to do too much. So ultimately adding a few guys or a player or two with experience wouldn't be terrible for Columbus. But I don't know. I don't really see a connection that they're both going to be able to help each other out. But at the end of the day, the Canucks are aggressively through the agent trying to move Garland and would like to find the right opportunity to add a defenseman. That's going to take some time. They're going to probably be a little bit more patient on that front. And like I said, Columbus wants a year checking the lineup. There's probably going to be some options. I know Peak's name was out there more than the other two when it comes to Jake Bean or Boakfist, but I wouldn't be shocked if any or all of them are, the one that ends up to go. Hard to say. The Boston Bruins I want to talk about as well. Elliotte Friedman in his latest podcast, which was just released prior to the Winnipeg Jets announcing the matching contracts for Mark Scheifele and Connor Hellebuyck, had made a comment that as long as guys like Scheifele and Elias Lindholm in Calgary are, not signed and on the final year of their contract, the Bruins are going to be watching those situations extremely close and are going to be looking to do their best to find a way to upgrade their top six center position throughout the year. Well, obviously, Scheifele's off the market now. So Lindholm is certainly a guy to watch. As I mentioned from the get-go, as soon as we found out that Bergeron and Krejci were retiring, knowing that Elias Lindholm's future in Calgary was at the very least questionable, he's your ideal guy that if you look around the entire league, for anybody who might be available, he's your ideal replacement. I'm not saying he's going to end up there, but I think it's fair to say, based on what Friedman's report is saying, that they will be watching that situation extremely close. And if Calgary's having a tough time signing him, that they will be poking around in there trying to see if there's any way they can work out a trade. Now, of course, the Bruins, though, as I mentioned before, when it comes to top six centers or anybody else for that matter, they don't have a ton of assets that they would really be intriguing for a lot of teams to pick up on when it comes to a trade. Now, of course, Jake DeBrusk is a player that will interest people. He's also a pending UFA, so I know he'll get some interest from teams if they're having any kind of trade talks with the Bruins. I think the Bruins' primary objective is to probably sign him, but at the same time, they have to give up value to get value. And if they have a chance to get a centerman like Lindholm and the Flames really want DeBrusk, I think they would probably consider it. But it may not be the ideal trade for either team, really. So hard to say if it goes down like that. But at the end of the day, fair to say that the Bruins are going to be watching that situation very close. And if there's any other, legit top six centers around the league that are reportedly available, they will be checking in on and trying to figure something out if they can upgrade their team. Now, of course, they'll take things slow, see how things go the first little bit with what they have. But fair to say the Bruins are expected to step back a little bit this year. But if they can get themselves right between the youth that they've been able to bring up, the good players that they have left, if they can find a way to add a little bit of center depth, that team might be, still a very competitive elite level team that can do damage in the playoffs again. So we'll see what happens. But welcome to opening night. Hockey's officially back. That's going to be exciting for all hockey fans out there. Let me know in the comments. I'd love to know what your big highlight is from opening night, what you're looking forward to most this season, and we'll discuss further down in the comments. In case you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe, stick around. This is the place to get all your NHL updates for the entire season. Great community of people to chat with in the comment section as well. So thanks for watching, and I will catch you next time.